101.5 FM Uyo. First, the top stories. Presidency replies former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's criticisms on Nigeria reform journey. Federal government bars ministries from awarding unfunded contract. Nigerian military pressures IPOB and Eastern Security Network fighters to surrender arms in Southeast region. And from the foreign scene, heat wave spreads across Korean peninsula, prompting emergency response. In sports, Team Nigeria emerges Africa's best at 2026 Commonwealth Games. We have details of these and other stories coming up in a moment. I am NYAKNNO, Albert. And now the news in full, beginning from the presidency. The presidency has replied former Vice President Atiku Abubakar on Nigeria's reform journey, saying criticisms must be based on facts and not frozen snapshots of history. In a statement yesterday, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar slammed the President Bola Tinubu-led administration over its management of Nigeria's economy, saying no amount of lying with statistics could shield the administration from what he described as its worsening economic record. The former vice president also accused the current administration of attempting to rewrite Nigeria's economic realities through what he called creative accounting and polished public presentations, maintaining that the daily hardship confronting Nigerians tells a completely different story. Reacting, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, defended President Tinubu's economic reforms and replied Atiku on Nigeria's reform journey, saying that politics thrives on disagreement and democracy demands it, but disagreements must be rooted in fact, not frozen snapshots of history. Onanuga explained that economies are dynamic, reforms are processes, not events, and judging a reform program solely by its earliest and most painful phase is like judging chemotherapy by the nausea it induces while ignoring the remission it seeks to achieve. On the national scene, the federal government has barred ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, from awarding contracts or entering into any financial commitments without first securing the required budgetary approval and cash backing, in a move aimed at tightening fiscal discipline and enforcing compliance with procurement laws. The directive was contained in the Federal Treasury Circular signed by the Accountant General of the Federation, Dr. Shamsuddin Ogunjimi, and addressed to key government officials, including ministers, permanent secretaries, heads of extra-ministerial departments and agencies, accounting offices, and federal pay offices. According to Dr. Ogunjimi, the fresh operational guidelines became necessary following widespread violations of the Public Procurement Act 2007 and other financial regulations governing public expenditure. A key provision of the circular stipulates that no MDA can issue letters of award, sign contracts, or incur financial obligations without first obtaining a warrant or authority to incur expenditure. The Office of the Accountant General also directed MDAs to download and attach copies of warrants or authority to incur expenditure generated through the Government Integrated Financial Management Information System as evidence that funds are available before contracts are awarded or payments are processed. In another development, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, has called for urgent tax harmonization, improved infrastructure, reliable energy supply, and a predictable regulatory environment to strengthen the country's manufacturing sector. The appeal was made at the 41st Annual General Meeting of the Ogun branch of MAN in Abeokuta with the theme, Building a Resilient Manufacturing Sector, Surmounting the Challenges of Fiscal and Regulatory Policies and Tariffs. Speaking at the event, MAN President Francis Meshoye said manufacturers had borne the brunt of the federal government's economic reforms over the past 3 years, resulting in rising production costs, declining investment, and mounting operational pressures. Meshoye identified predictable fiscal policies, smart regulation, affordable energy, improved infrastructure, access to single-digit interest loans, and protection against unfair imports as critical to repositioning the sector. He urged governments at all levels to ensure taxes, levies, and tariffs remain predictable, while regulatory agencies should prioritize industrial growth instead of revenue generation. Talking security now, sustained military operations have forced some members of the proscribed Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, and its armed wing, the Eastern Security Network ESN, to begin surrendering their weapons in the southeast region of the country. This is contained in a military operational report made available to newsmen yesterday, saying the sustained logistics strangulation and offensive operations by the Operation Doka in Ohaji Egbema and Osumogu general areas had compelled some fighters to capitulate and surrender their arms. The report said the development resulted in the recovery of 3 rifles, 6 magazines, 99 rounds of ammunition, 4 locally made guns, and 1 improvised explosive device, also leading to the recovery of 2 GMPGs, 45 rounds of 7.62mm by 51 ammunition, and 1 improvised explosive device. According to the report, all recovered weapons and ammunition are in military custody for further action, while operations continue across the southeast. Away from that, the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) has released fresh guidelines for prospective corps members ahead of the upcoming orientation camp, warning them against night travel and highlighting key requirements for registration. In a notice posted on its X handle earlier today, the scheme advised prospective corps members to prioritize safety while traveling to the assigned orientation camps. The scheme also warned that candidates with discrepancies in their graduation date would not be registered at the orientation camp. The NYSC directed affected candidates to resolve such issues with the relevant authorities before reporting to camp. The scheme further reminded prospective corps members to complete all required documentation before arriving at camp, including the signing and submission of the registration form. You're listening to Global News on Memories 96.5 FM. More reports after the break. Do stay with us. It's 96.5 FM. And now to the rest of the news. On the foreign scene, heat wave is gripping the Korean peninsula, sending temperatures soaring across South Korea and North Korea as authorities expand emergency measures and residents seek relief in cooling shelters, beaches, and water parks. Forecasters said earlier today that extreme heat previously concentrated in South Korea's southeast was spreading into the Seoul metropolitan area and other western regions. South Korea's weather agency warned that temperatures could rise further in western regions this week. Data from the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency yesterday also showed 14 people had died and 1,889 people had suffered heat-related illnesses since mid-May. Prime Minister Han Seong-yuk ordered ministers and local governments to mobilize all available resources to respond to heat wave and drought risk after the government raised its heat wave response alert to the second highest level, unlocking funding for relief efforts and more frequent inspections in affected areas. And in sport, Team Nigeria concluded an impressive campaign at the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland, finishing as the highest-ranked African nation after placing 7th on the final medals table with 24 medals. The Nigerian contingent secured 10 gold, 7 silver, and 7 bronze medals, earning a place among the competition's top 10 nations and reinforcing the country's status as one of the game's standout performers. The final standings released by the Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games organizers showed Australia topping the medals table with 171 medals comprising 70 gold, 45 silver, and 56 bronze. England finished second with 110 medals, while Canada claimed third place with 62 medals, and India and host Scotland completed the top 5. Nigeria's campaign was highlighted by several outstanding performances across athletics and para sports, and with 10 gold medals and 24 podium finishes overall, with Team Nigeria closing the Glasgow Games as Africa's best performing nation, underlining the country's growing strength across athletics, para sports, and field events on the Commonwealth stage. On Memories 96.5 FM, but before we go, let's take a recap of the top stories. The presidency has replied former Vice President Atiku Abubakar on Nigeria's reform journey, saying criticisms must be based on facts and not frozen snapshots of history. The federal government has barred ministries, departments and agencies from awarding contracts or entering into any financial commitment without first securing the required budgetary approval and cash backing, in a move aimed at tightening fiscal discipline and enforcing compliance with procurement laws. Sustained military operations have forced some members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra and its armed wing, Eastern Security Network, to begin surrendering their weapons in the southeast region of the country. And from the foreign scene, you heard that a record heat wave is gripping the Korean peninsula, sending temperatures soaring across South Korea and North Korea as authorities expand emergency measures and residents seek relief in cooling shelters, beaches, and water parks. And in sports, Team Nigeria concluded an impressive campaign at the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland, finishing as the highest-ranked African nation after placing 7th on the medals table with 24 medals. The news this afternoon was edited by Ofonise Basi Johnson and assisted by the production team. For views regarding our news or coverage of your newsworthy events, you can reach us on email newsroom@memoriesmediang.com or call our Newsroom hotline on 0911-244-4006. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Memories965FM and listen to us from anywhere in the world on Radio Garden at Memories 96.5 FM. Log on to our website at www.memoriesmediang.com. And now, let's take you down memory lane. On this day in 1960, Niger gained full independence from France, and Hamani Diori took office as the nation's first president. That's the news. Thank you so much for listening. I am NYAKNNO, Albert. Good afternoon.